The dust settled slowly around Captain Walker's boots as he made his way through the ancient ruins. His light beam cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow faintly in response to his presence. The ruins on this planet were different from any he had seen before in his 15 years with the Galactic Archaeological Society. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Tom, his youngest team member. The excitement in the young archaeologist's voice made Walker quicken his pace through the crumbling corridor. The beam from Walker's light joined Tom's, illuminating a massive wall covered in what looked like a warning message. Unlike the other walls, this one was carved with deep, purposeful cuts, as if whoever made it wanted it to last forever. The symbols here were larger, more urgent in their appearance. "Begin scanning," Walker ordered, and the air filled with the soft hum of their equipment. The translation matrix worked quickly, converting the ancient text into something they could understand. As the words appeared on his display screen, Walker felt his heart beat faster. "Beware, the blue world," the first line read. "They guard the prison of horrors." Tom moved his light across the wall, revealing more text. "Look at these coordinates, Captain. They're pointing to a specific star system." He paused, double-checking his readings. "Sir, these are Earth's coordinates." Walker pulled out his data pad and began documenting everything. This wasn't the first time they'd found references to Earth in ancient ruins, but something about this warning felt different. It carried a weight to it, an urgency that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. As they continued their documentation, a message from another team crackled through their comms. "Captain Walker, Team B here. We found something similar in the Eastern Chamber." Another warning, but from what appears to be a completely different civilization. It's also about Earth." Walker exchanged looks with Tom. Two different civilizations, leaving the same warning about Earth. That couldn't be a coincidence. "Stay where you are. We're coming to you." The Eastern Chamber was larger, its ceiling disappearing into darkness above them. The warning here was written in a completely different script, yet the translation revealed an eerily similar message. "The blue prison must not be disturbed. The guardians protect us all." Over the next few hours, they found 3 more warnings, each in different writing systems, each from different eras, but all carrying the same message about Earth. Each civilization had been advanced enough to reach the stars, yet something about Earth had terrified them enough to leave these warnings before they vanished. Walker stood in the central chamber, surrounded by the ghostly warnings of long-dead civilizations. His mind raced with questions. What were they guarding on Earth? And who were these guardians they mentioned? The timing of these warnings suggested they were left long before humans had achieved spaceflight, some dating back millions of years. As the teams gathered their findings, Walker's attention was drawn to one final inscription, partially hidden behind fallen debris. This one was different. It wasn't a warning, but what appeared to be a log entry. The translation was rough, but its meaning was clear enough. "We thought we could understand it. We thought we could control it. We were wrong. The Guardians were right. If you find this, stay away from the blue world. They guard something far worse than you can imagine." The message ended abruptly, as if the writer had been interrupted. Walker ran his hand along the ancient stone, feeling the desperate urgency in each carved letter. In all his years of space archaeology, he had never encountered anything like this. 5 different civilizations, spanning millions of years, all leaving the same warning about his home world. Walker keyed his comm unit. "Base command, this is Walker. We're going to need a full containment team and the highest security clearance. What we found here, it changes everything we thought we knew about Earth's place in the galaxy." As he looked around at the walls of warnings one last time, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that by discovering these messages, they had already set something in motion, something that had been waiting for a very, very long time. The meeting room aboard the research ship Odyssey fell silent as Walker finished presenting his findings. Dr. Anna Thompson, her gray hair tied back in a neat bun, was the first to speak. She had studied dead civilizations for 30 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. You're telling me that 5 different alien civilizations, none of which had contact with each other, all left the same morning about Earth? She asked, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. Walker nodded, bringing up the holographic images of the warnings they had found. Not just similar warnings, they all specifically mentioned Earth as a prison and humans as guardians. The dates range from 50,000 to 5 million years ago. Marcus Reed, the military historian they had brought in, stood up and walked to the star map. His large frame cast a shadow over the glowing dots that represented each civilization's last known location. "Look at this pattern," he said, pointing to the spaces between stars. "Each of these civilizations vanished after they got too close to our solar system. No wars, no plagues. They just disappeared." Walker watched as Reed connected the points on the map, forming a rough circle around Earth's solar system. The pattern was impossible to ignore. It looked like a quarantine zone, with Earth at its center. "There's more," Walker said, pulling up new images. "We found similar warnings on 3 other worlds we visited last month. I didn't connect them at first, but now." He let the sentence hang in the air. Dr. Thompson pulled up her own data on the screen. "I've been studying the timing of these disappearances. Every 50,000 years, like clockwork, an advanced civilization would rise, approach Earth, and then vanish completely. The last one disappeared just as humans were making their first tools." The room grew colder as the implications sank in. Reed pointed to a date on the timeline. "That's not a coincidence. Look at human DNA studies from the past decade. They show unexplained rapid changes in our genetic code around the same time. Almost as if something rewrote us." Thompson finished. "Made us into whatever we needed to be." Walker brought up the last warning they had found, the one that seemed more like a final message than a warning. The rough translation glowed in the air. "They guard something far worse than you can imagine. We need to know what's down there," Reed said, his military training evident in his stance. "If Earth is a prison, what's it holding? And why were humans chosen as the guards?" Thompson shook her head. "Maybe we weren't chosen. Maybe we were created for this purpose. Think about it. Humans are the only species known to have developed such complex social structures, advanced technology, and yet never tried to leave the solar system in large numbers. What if that's not an accident?" The ship's sensors suddenly beeped, drawing everyone's attention. Strange energy readings were coming from the direction of Earth, millions of miles away. The readings made no sense. They seemed to bend the laws of physics themselves. "It's like the planet knows we're talking about it," Reed muttered, studying the readings. Walker made his decision. "We're going back to Earth. But first, we need to stop at each of these points where civilizations vanished. There might be more clues about what we're dealing with." As the team began preparing for their journey, Walker couldn't shake off a strange feeling. The more they discovered, the more it seemed like they were being led down a path. But by whom? The long-dead civilizations that left the warnings? The mysterious creators who made Earth into a prison? Or something else, something that had been waiting millions of years for someone to finally ask the right questions? The Odyssey's engines hummed to life, and the ship turned toward the first set of coordinates. Behind them, the strange energy readings from Earth continued to pulse, like a beacon calling them home. Or perhaps, Walker thought, like a warning signal telling them to stay away. Either way, they had gone too far to turn back now. The truth about humanity's purpose in the universe waited somewhere ahead, even if that truth turned out to be darker than any of them could imagine. The Odyssey dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the ruins of what had once been a mighty civilization. The planet below them was dead, its surface scarred by what looked like massive energy weapons. But that wasn't what made the crew fall silent. It was the pattern, exactly the same as the others they had visited. Reed pressed his hand against the viewing window, his eyes fixed on the destruction below. "This makes 7 worlds we found like this. All of them tried to reach Earth. All of them were destroyed in exactly the same way. Dr. Thompson worked at her station, analyzing the readings from the surface. Her eyes widened as the data came in. The energy signatures, they're identical to the pulses we detected coming from Earth. Whatever did this came from our home. Walker ordered the ship to move closer to the surface. The Odyssey's sensors revealed a massive structure half buried in the planet's crust. Another warning temple, he said, just like the others. The team took their shuttle down to the surface. The air was thin but breathable. As they approached the structure, their instruments began picking up energy readings that shouldn't have been possible after so many thousands of years. The temple is still powered, Tom said in disbelief, checking his readings again. How is that possible? Inside, they found what they had begun to expect. More warnings about Earth. But these were different. These included detailed scans and readings of whatever was hidden beneath Earth's surface. The alien text covered the walls from floor to ceiling, glowing with a faint blue light. This civilization was more advanced than the others, Thompson said, studying the symbols. They didn't just find Earth. They studied it. They knew what was down there. She worked quickly to translate the text, but suddenly stopped, her face going pale. What is it? Walker asked, moving to her side. According to this, Earth's core isn't natural. It's a containment device, built by something they called the First Ones. And what it's containing. She couldn't finish the sentence. Reed pointed to another section of text. Look at these dates. This civilization did their research about 50,000 years ago. They found that every time a civilization got close to understanding what was in Earth's core, something would wake up. And he gestured at the ruins around them. The ground beneath them trembled slightly. Tom's instruments began beeping wildly. Captain, something's happening. The energy readings from Earth, they're getting stronger. It's like Earth knows we're reading this. Walker moved to the center of the temple, where a holographic display suddenly flickered to life. It showed Earth, but not as they knew it. The display peeled back layers, going deeper and deeper, past the crust, past the mantle, until it reached the core. But what they saw there wasn't molten metal. It was something else, something that moved. This civilization found out the truth, Thompson said, reading more of the text. Humans weren't just chosen as guards. We were created to be living locks. Our very existence, our DNA, helps keep whatever is down there sleeping. That's why we developed the way we did, why we stayed close to Earth. More tremors shook the temple. The hologram showed the thing in Earth's core stirring, like something in a troubled sleep. Walker noticed patterns in its movement that matched the strange symbols they'd been finding in all the temples. We need to go, Reed said urgently. These energy readings are off the charts. If we stay here any longer. A massive quake cut him off. The temple's ancient system screamed warnings as energy levels spiked. Through the entrance, they could see their shuttle's sensors picking up massive energy waves coming from the direction of Earth, millions of light years away. They barely made it back to the Odyssey before the energy wave hit. As they watched from orbit, the ancient temple below crumbled to dust, taking its warnings with it. But they had seen enough. They knew what they had to do next. Set course for Earth, Walker ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of their discovery. It's time we found out what our ancestors have been guarding all this time. As the Odyssey turned toward home, none of them noticed the small changes beginning in their own DNA, as if something ancient was awakening inside them, preparing them for what was to come. The Odyssey's engines hummed quietly as they pushed through space toward Earth. The journey home had been strange from the start. Their instruments kept showing impossible readings, and the crew reported strange dreams that felt more like memories of things they had never experienced. Walker stood at the ship's main viewport, watching the stars blur past. The closer they got to Earth, the more frequent the strange occurrences became. Just yesterday, all the ship's clocks had started running backward for exactly 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Captain, Tom called from his station, his voice shaking slightly. "You need to see this." He pulled up a display showing the crew's latest medical scans. "Our DNA, it's changing." Dr. Thompson moved to examine the readings. "The changes match the patterns we found in the temple. It's like our genetic code is responding to something." She pointed to a series of new structures appearing in their cells. "These look like the symbols we found in the ruins, but they're forming naturally in our bodies." Reed walked into the bridge, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "The dreams are getting worse," he said. "Last night, I remembered watching something being sealed away beneath the earth, but it wasn't me watching. It was like I was seeing it through someone else's eyes, someone who was there millions of years ago." The ship's sensors suddenly blared in alarm. A massive energy wave was approaching from Earth's direction, bigger than any they had seen before. Walker ordered everyone to brace for impact, but when the wave hit, nothing seemed to happen. At least, nothing physical. Instead, every crew member experienced the same vision simultaneously. They saw Earth as it was billions of years ago. They watched through ancient eyes as something terrible was drawn into a trap beneath the planet's surface. They felt the fear of those who built the prison and understood why they had created humanity to be its guardians. When the vision cleared, Thompson was the first to speak. "Those weren't dreams we were having," she said. "They were memories, coded into our DNA by our creators, waiting to be activated when we got close enough to the truth." The ship's computer began displaying data they hadn't asked for, showing scans of Earth's core that shouldn't have been possible at this distance. The images showed something massive moving in patterns that hurt their eyes to look at, like it existed in more dimensions than they could perceive. "The prison is failing," Reed said, somehow knowing it was true. "That's why we're remembering now. Whatever is down there is getting stronger, and it's calling to us." Tom's instruments picked up a transmission from Earth, but when they played it, all they heard was a strange humming that made their teeth vibrate. Walker noticed that the sound matched the patterns they had seen in the core. "Look at this," Thompson said, pulling up historical data. "Every major breakthrough in human history, every leap forward in our technology, they all happened when that thing in the core was most active. It's been guiding our development, preparing us for something." The ship's lights flickered as another energy wave passed through them. This time, the vision showed them what would happen if the prison failed. They saw reality itself tear apart as the thing in Earth's core broke free. They understood why the previous civilizations had been destroyed. They had tried to harness its power, not understanding that its very existence threatened to unravel the universe. Walker felt something shift in his mind, like a key turning in a lock. Ancient knowledge began flooding in, showing him what they needed to do. He wasn't just Captain Walker anymore. He was part of humanity's true purpose, a living component of the most important prison ever built. "Change course," he ordered, his voice carrying a new authority that everyone somehow recognized. "We're not going to Earth's surface. We need to go deeper. The core is calling its guardians home, and for the first time in human history, we're awake enough to answer." The Odyssey adjusted its trajectory, no longer heading for Earth's spaceports, but for something far deeper. As they approached their home world, each crew member felt the weight of countless generations of guardians awakening in their blood. They were no longer just human. They were the keys to a lock that held something infinitely dangerous, and that lock was beginning to fail. The Odyssey entered Earth's atmosphere at an angle that no ship should have attempted. Their instruments were going crazy, but something in their awakened DNA told them exactly where to go. Military channels burst to life, demanding they change course, until a single voice cut through all others. "Let them through," the voice commanded. "We've been waiting for them." The ship's crew watched in amazement as the ocean below them began to part, revealing a massive structure that shouldn't have existed. A facility, hidden beneath the waves, larger than any city they had ever seen. As they landed, Walker understood that this place had been here longer than humanity itself. Admiral Grant met them at the landing pad, his uniform decorated with symbols that matched the ones they'd found in the ancient temples. "You've finally awakened," he said, not bothering with introductions. "We've been watching your journey since you found the first warning." Thompson stepped forward, her mind filling with ancient memories. "You're part of the original program. The ones who stayed awake to watch." It wasn't a question. The Admiral nodded as he led them through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. "There have always been some of us who remembered our true purpose. We guide humanity from the shadows, making sure we stay close to what we guard, making sure we're ready when the prison begins to fail." They entered a massive chamber filled with screens showing Earth's core from impossible angles. Scientists and military personnel worked at stations, covered in symbols that exactly matched the ones appearing in the crew's changing DNA. Reed stopped suddenly, pointing at one of the screens. "That's not Earth's core," he said. "That's the prison itself. The entire planet was built around it." "Built by the first ones," the Admiral confirmed. "The only race powerful enough to capture what lies within. But even they couldn't destroy it, so they built this prison and created us to guard it." Walker watched the screens, seeing the thing in the core moving in patterns that his awakened mind now understood. "What exactly are we guarding?" The Admiral pressed his hand to a panel, and the chamber's center opened to reveal a hologram of reality itself, not just their universe, but all possible universes. In the space between them writhed something that hurt to look at. "We guard the thing that exists between realities," the Admiral said. "The entity that devours universes. The first ones caught it after it had destroyed 1,000 realities. They built Earth as its prison. But they needed guardians who could exist in physical form while being connected to the prison itself. So they created humanity." Thompson's eyes widened as more memories surfaced. "That's why we developed the way we did. Our art, our music, our ability to imagine. We needed to be able to perceive things beyond normal reality. And that's why those other civilizations disappeared," Tom added. "When they got too close, they attracted its attention. It reached out from its prison and pulled them into the spaces between realities." The Admiral nodded grimly. "But now the prison is failing. The entity has been working for millions of years to weaken its bonds. That's why you were awakened. The prison needs all its guardians now." The screen suddenly flashed red. The thing in the core moved violently, and everyone in the room felt reality itself shudder. Ancient knowledge flooded their minds, showing them what they had to do. "The first ones left us everything we need," the Admiral said, leading them toward a door that seemed to open into infinite space. "The tools, the knowledge, even the genetic keys to strengthen the prison. But using them will change us. We'll finally become what we were always meant to be." Walker looked at his crew, seeing in their eyes the same understanding he felt. They weren't just archaeologists or scientists anymore. They were the latest in an ancient line of guardians, created to protect not just Earth, but reality itself. The entity in the core pulsed again, and they felt its hunger reaching out to them, offering them power beyond imagination. Now they understood why the other civilizations had fallen. The offer was almost impossible to resist. But humanity had been created for this very moment, engineered to make the right choice. "Show us what we need to do," Walker said, feeling the weight of countless generations of guardians in his words. "It's time we fulfilled our purpose." The deep facility shook as another pulse emanated from Earth's core. Warning lights flashed across every screen as the entity's movements became more violent. Walker watched as reality itself seemed to bend around them, creating shadows that shouldn't exist. "It's fighting harder than ever before," the Admiral said, leading them through corridors that seemed to stretch impossibly. The prison wasn't meant to hold it this long. Even the first ones didn't expect it to last forever. Tom's instruments showed massive energy spikes coming from all over the planet. "Look at these readings," he said, his voice filled with awe and fear. "Every human on Earth, their DNA is activating, just like ours did." Through the facility's windows, they could see the ocean above them rippling in impossible patterns. The water moved like it was alive, responding to the entity's attempts to break free. On the screens around them, reports flooded in from around the world. "People are having the visions," Thompson said, reading the reports. "Everyone's remembering. The genetic keys are turning all at once." She pointed to footage from major cities, where millions of people had stopped what they were doing, their eyes filled with ancient memories. Reed studied the tactical displays, his military training combining with his awakened knowledge. The previous civilizations that disappeared. They tried to communicate with it, didn't they? Try to learn its secrets. The Admiral nodded grimly. The entity offers knowledge. The secrets of reality itself. That's how it corrupts. It showed those civilizations wonders they couldn't resist. But we were made differently. We were made to resist its call. Another tremor rocked the facility, stronger than before. The screens showing Earth's core flickered with impossible colors as the entity thrashed against its bonds. Walker felt its presence pushing against his mind, offering him everything he had ever dreamed of knowing. "It's trying to break through our mental defenses," Thompson said, holding her head, "just like it did with the other civilizations. But there's something else." Her eyes widened. "It's afraid. For the first time since it was imprisoned, it's afraid of us." The Admiral led them to a massive circular chamber deep within the facility. Ancient machinery hummed with power that felt older than time itself. In the center, a column of energy stretched up into infinity, pulsing with the same rhythm as Earth's core. "The first ones left us this," the Admiral explained. "The key to strengthening the prison, but it requires something they couldn't provide. A species willing to sacrifice godlike power for the good of all reality. That's what we were created to be." Through their awakened DNA, they could feel billions of humans around the world connecting to the same ancient purpose. The entity's promises of power and knowledge beat against their minds, trying to tempt them just as it had tempted those who came before. Walker stepped toward the energy column, understanding flowing through him. The other civilizations failed because they tried to use the entity's power. But that's not what we're meant to do, is it? We're not meant to use the power at all. "No," the Admiral confirmed. "We're meant to contain it. Every human on Earth is part of the lock. And now that we're all awake, we can finally complete what the first one started." The entity's movements became more desperate as it sensed what was happening. The facility's sensors showed reality beginning to tear around Earth's core. Through their shared connection, they could feel it offering them everything: immortality, unlimited knowledge, power beyond imagination. Tom looked at the readings from the core, his face pale. "The prison walls are failing faster than they're repairing. Even with all of humanity awakened, we're losing this fight." But Walker saw something in the data that the others hadn't noticed yet, a pattern hidden in the chaos, showing them what they needed to do. The entity wasn't just fighting against its prison now, it was fighting against what humanity was about to become. "We're not supposed to repair the old prison," he said, ancient knowledge flowing through him. "We're supposed to become the new one." The energy column pulsed brighter as the truth of his words resonated through humanity's collective awakening. Around the world, billions of people felt the same understanding dawn. The first ones hadn't just created them to be guardians. They had created them to be something far more. The energy column in the center of the chamber pulsed with blinding light as reality itself trembled around them. Through their awakened connection, the crew could feel billions of humans across the planet joining together in a way that had never happened before in human history. The entity's movements became more violent, sending shockwaves through the fabric of space-time. The facility's screen showed impossible readings as the thing in Earth's core fought against what humanity was becoming. Its offers of power and knowledge hammered against their minds with desperate intensity. "Look at the core readings," Tom called out, his voice filled with wonder and fear. "The energy patterns, they're changing. It's not just trying to break free anymore. It's trying to merge with us." The Admiral's face was grim as he worked at the ancient controls. That's how it corrupted the other civilizations. It offered to share its power with them. to make them like itself. They thought they could control it, use its power. They were wrong. Through the facility's windows, they could see the ocean above them, moving in impossible ways, forming patterns that matched the symbols in their DNA. Thompson studied the readings from around the world, her eyes wide with understanding. Every human on the planet is changing at the genetic level, she said. The first ones didn't just give us the ability to guard the prison. They gave us the ability to become something entirely new. Another wave of energy pulsed from the core, stronger than any before. But this time, instead of fighting against it, humanity's collective consciousness moved in perfect harmony. The symbols encoded in their DNA began to glow with actual light beneath their skin. Reed watched the tactical displays as strange energy readings appeared all over the planet. It's not just us in this facility. Every human being is becoming part of this. We're all making the choice together. The entity's offer reached a fever pitch in their minds. It showed them visions of what they could become, gods who could shape reality itself, beings of pure energy who could create and destroy universes at will. The power it offered was real, and it was infinite. Walker stepped forward, placing his hand on the energy column. The light spread up his arm, and through their shared connection, everyone felt the truth he had discovered. We were never meant to use its power, he said. We were meant to contain it, not as guards, but as the prison itself. The Admiral nodded, ancient memories flowing through him. The first ones couldn't destroy it, couldn't contain it forever in a prison of matter and energy. But they could create something new, a species that could evolve to become a living prison, a consciousness that could hold it forever. Understanding flooded through humanity's collective awareness. Every human on Earth felt the choice before them. They could accept the entity's offer, try to use its power like those who had come before, or they could complete their transformation, become something that had never existed before. A species united as one conscious force, existing to keep reality itself safe. The entity's struggles reached a crescendo as it sensed humanity's decision. The facility shook, reality warped, and for a moment it seemed like everything would tear apart. But then, all across the planet, humans made the same choice their species had been created to make. The energy column erupted with light that spread through the facility, across the ocean, around the entire planet. Every human being became part of the same vast consciousness, their minds linking together to form something greater than the sum of its parts. Their bodies remained individual, but their awareness became one. Through their unified consciousness, they'd reached down into Earth's core, no longer fighting against the entity, but embracing it, containing it within their collective being. The power it offered became meaningless compared to what they had become, not users of power, but guardians of reality itself. The violent tremors subsided. The entity's struggles weakened as it found itself contained within something far stronger than the original prison. The unified consciousness of an entire species created for this very purpose. Humanity had become the lock, the key, and the prison all at once. In the now quiet facility, Walker opened his eyes, feeling the connection to every other human being on Earth. They were still individuals, still themselves, but also part of something far greater. They had fulfilled their purpose, becoming what the first ones had always intended, not just guardians, but the final solution to keep reality itself safe. "It's done," he said simply, his words echoing through humanity's shared consciousness. They were no longer just the human race. They had become reality's eternal guardians, the living prison that would keep the universe safe forever. And somehow, this felt like only the beginning of what they could become.